What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Today we're gonna be going over this video.
Evolution is a biological mechanism, and God is a creator and designer of mechanisms. So if evolution was true, there'd be no contradiction. One's a mechanism, and one designs and creates mechanisms.
So yes, we're going to be handling this Muslim's video where he builds a whole lot of straw men, and I don't know why he's taken it upon himself to build us a whole field of straw men, but that's what he's done today. So if you're interested in this dumb shit, then please stay tuned. Okay, so this guy is a Muslim. So automatically that makes me a bigot, I guess. What he's going to do is he's going to lay out a few proofs that say that atheism is foolish or atheism is wrong or you know, that you should turn away from atheism or something. So he's going to make his case. It's only about 4 minutes long, but he goes through a lot of bullshit. So I hope that you guys can enjoy it. And I hope that I don't fuck up too bad, but we'll see.
Smile Jannah.
2 points that puts atheism in a lot of problems. Number one, how many times have you heard, oh, we know the laws and theories that has brought the universe into existence, hashtag Big Bang, therefore,
God does not exist.
God, that's dramatic. Okay, so right off the bat here, he's building a straw man case. Because he's saying atheists say that because the Big Bang happened, that means that God does not exist. The Big Bang happening is a totally separate issue to God existing. God could still exist and could have banged the Big Bang, I guess. There's no good reason to think that that is the actual situation. There is no good reason to jump logically to God existing just because there was a Big Bang. So I don't think that there's any atheist out there that says, oh, the Big Bang happened, therefore God doesn't exist. So I'm going to call that a straw man right off the bat. Your first point here, total straw man. But in any case, the Big Bang does not disprove God, but it does disprove parts of certain religious texts, like the Quran, the Bible, Judaism in general. I would say that it disproves a lot of that, and it casts a lot of doubt on those books and the validity of them because of what's in the books. I'm not saying that it disproves God, but it definitely says, these books are shady shit.
that's incorrect because laws don't cause things themselves. For example, Newton's law can explain the movement of the football, but it's the actual football player that causes the ball to move in the first place.
Well, yeah, true. I mean, the football player would be the one, but I mean, there are natural things in which that could make the ball move. Like, for instance, wind. There's no conscious entity that makes wind move, you know, or makes wind happen. Okay, so wind could blow the ball, and that's one way that the ball could move. Just because a ball moved doesn't mean that a conscious person had to be the one to move the ball. It just means that there was some force external to the ball that was applied to it in one particular direction, and it fucking went off in that particular vector. Sorry, I'm choking on truth and facts. What he presupposes here is that God or some kind of a conscious thing is needed to make anything happen. We have laws, and laws are our understanding of our reality. Now, these laws don't naturally make things happen, but they can explain why things naturally happen, like the wind and the ball. Like the wind is explained by different atmospheric pressures. You got a low pressure area over here and a high pressure area over here, and it goes to fill that void, and then that's how wind is created. So, I mean, like that, there's a natural explanation to it.
And number two, how many times have you heard, oh, we know the mechanism that has brought about life on this planet, hashtag evolution, therefore,
God does not exist.
Okay, so I'll stop you right here. Another straw man. I would appreciate if you quit building a straw man. I don't have a fucking cornfield here. I know I'm in Alabama, but goddamn, it would be a cotton field, not a cornfield. I know there's a cotton field right across the way, but I'm not fucking standing in a goddamn cotton field, so I don't need straw man arguments. Nobody says that because evolution happened or because we understand evolution or evolution exists or anything like that, that means that God doesn't exist. This is racist.
Hey, I picked that myself.
And I'm Puerto Rican.
What does that have to do with cotton?
Get out of here, bigot. I love you, honey. You're not a bigot. You're great. Is that the one you stole out of the field? They sell that shit for money.
It was on the edge of the field.
It was on the edge
Which,
of the field.
biblically speaking, is for me to pick.
Okay, that's fine. But just because we understand a scientific concept does not mean that God doesn't exist. There are plenty of Christians and even Muslims now that live with this whole idea that God could have started evolution or started life and let it just take shape in however it was. There are plenty of them running around. So no atheist is saying this. It's a straw man argument. And so this is straw man argument number 2.
Again, this is incorrect because knowing the mechanism does not refute a designer.
And nobody's saying that it does. Thank you for playing.
For example, if you know how a Ford car works, that doesn't mean that the creator of the Ford car, Mr. Ford,
Hello.
does not exist.
Goodbye.
True, it doesn't, but we also don't have natural processes that show how a Ford car can naturally come into existence. But we have natural processes that explain why flowers grow the way they do, or why frogs move from eggs to tadpole to an actual frog. We have natural processes that explain all of these things. We don't need a God in order to explain them, so you shouldn't really force a God into the explanation. That is the whole point of it, though, is that you don't need God to explain these things, so you shouldn't invoke God. It's not saying that God definitely doesn't exist. It's just saying, oh, no, you can't use God to say that these things only happen because of him when we understand the mechanism, the natural mechanism of it that causes these things to happen. So if there was no need for any conscious thing to start something, then there's no need to put something there to start it.
We have science.
We have science! I don't know why he's gonna change his voice like that.
Do we need God?
Okay, so again, straw man number 3, I'm still not standing in a fucking field, but you still building me straw man arguments. Okay? Just because we understand our natural world or just because we understand portions of reality doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. No atheist in the right mind would say, oh, we have science, therefore we don't need God. I would say that science is able to explain everything that we have attributed to God. But science, even the best scientists in the world would say that you cannot prove that God does not exist. What we can do is we can show how these explanations that you give us, or how certain things can come into existence, or how certain things happen, or what certain things do exist because we have evidence for it. We can show all of these things through the scientific method and prove it to you without a shadow of a doubt. And that's how it factors in. So if you are an atheist and saying, oh, we have science, therefore we don't need God, I would caution you using that because it's not a correct argument. Of course, he's going to say, that's not correct, but it's also not a fucking argument we ever fucking use.
Now, granted, science has been very useful to us over the years. It's led to the cure of many diseases. It's removed many superstitions like
Demons cause eclipses.
I think he said something about eclipses. I don't know. The scientific method is what allowed us to understand why eclipses actually work, curing many diseases. Here's a fun fact. In the Quran, it says that you can cure some kind of ailment or something like that by drinking camel piss. We know now that that's hogwash bullshit, but hey, go with your Quran book there, buddy. I would say that religious books, religious understanding has never given us these cures to diseases and ailments and whatnot. I would say that the religious books have actually set us back because, like with Islam and with Christianity, they blame devils or possession, or they blame all of these other things like, oh, you sinned, therefore you got dick cancer. They blame all these things that don't actually cause these things, and they say, oh, just go forth and sin no more, and your dick cancer will clear right up. And that has legit never fucking happened at all. Once we started adopting, the methods of science, we started coming to these understandings. And I would say that religion has never given us any kind of indication as to how to cure ailments or anything like that. I think that if you were Miss Cleo and you looked at the Bible or the Quran and you lifted your left butt cheek while you did it, you could probably find some place in there in which you can interpret, like going out on a fucking limb while you're twerking your ass as you read it. you could find some kind of way to match A to B with the curing of diseases. Plain and simple fact is that God's supposed to be omniscient, and you would think that he would put like how to make penicillin in there, or some kind of basic, like, I don't know, fucking vaccines or some shit in the Bible in which his people could make and they wouldn't fucking die. But then again, in the Old Testament, God is always killing his chosen people. It's just amazing to me how they can worship this deity that was so liberally killing them, and then like on a dime he changes his tune. Is like, but I give you my only son, or whatever the fuck the Muhammad guy did. He fucked a 9-year-old. I don't know.
Now, that's all well and good, but some people take it a tad too far and say, because we understand the mechanisms without involving God, therefore there's no God. Now, that is some dodgy logic.
I would say that's dodgy logic if it wasn't fucking a straw man. I would say that it's actually one straw man fucking another straw man in the straw ass. But I would say that that's also a bad argument, to say that, oh, because we don't have to invoke God, therefore God doesn't exist. It's, we don't have to invoke God, therefore we just don't invoke God. Like, this is not proof that God exists. This is actually proof against this God having these abilities or these particular properties or whatnot. That's what I would say.
That's like someone believing Mr. Ford makes his car move.
Hello.
Later he realizes he was a plonker and it's actually the engine.
Goodbye.
That doesn't mean that the designer of the car, Mr. Ford, doesn't exist.
What's his fascination with Mr. Ford? You think it's homoerotic? I do not wish my beard was that long, no.
Remember, if there's no Mr. Ford to design the car, there's no car for us to understand. If there's no God to design the universe, there's no universe for us to understand.
Well, you see, the problem with that logic there is that it presupposes that Ford was the only fuck around that could build a car. And obviously Ford is not the only one that built a fucking car. Engines were a thing before Ford was a thing. So I don't want to hear that kind of bullshit. Even if Ford didn't exist, you could get to engines in some other kind of way. I mean, there are plenty of other different designs of engines out there. Ford patented the assembly line, you know, being able to make large amounts of cars in a fast way by employing the assembly line system. Even if Ford didn't exist, the assembly line could have come up naturally. I mean, you know, there are several different civilizations across the world that have different types of pyramids. I just think that it's a natural thing that would have come up in the minds of somebody. Just because, like, somebody had to first design the assembly line or first design the engine, that doesn't mean that, oh, God had to be the one to create the entire universe. I mean, even with religions, we've got so many different types of gods and versions of gods, and the gods with probably with 3 assholes up there. I don't know. There's so many different versions of it that I'm fairly certain somebody could have come to your particular version of God if it wasn't the actual originator of that religion. God is in no way needed to explain our universe at all.
Does evolution contradict God?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that evolution contradicts God necessarily, but I would say that evolution contradicts the properties that are proposed by these religious textbooks and whatnot, or not textbooks, these religious books. So I wouldn't say that evolution or science disproves God on their own. I would just say that it disproves the certain ideas, facts, and historical claims that are in the Bible or Quran.
First of all, why are these two being put into the same category?
Why? Sorry, earbud warning.
It's like me asking, who's better, Ronaldo or LeBron James?
I would say LeBron, because I don't know who that other fucking guy is. It looks like he's wearing an Emirati shirt. He's probably a soccer player. I would vote basketball over soccer any day, to be quite honest. I mean, hockey is more interesting, I would say, than fucking basketball, because at least in hockey you have like fist fights and shit. It's almost like NASCAR. You watch the entire race in order to see the giant wreck that you know is coming. But it's like when it never comes, you're like, fuck, wasted 4 hours of my goddamn life watching people take left goddamn turns.
Ronaldo is a football player. LeBron James, basketball player. It's 2 different categories, mate.
I mean, it would be like me asking you, which one's better, Allah or Yahweh? They're the same, motherfucker! I guess that's how they're different.
Similarly, evolution is a biological mechanism, and God is a creator and designer of mechanisms.
Well, yeah, but you don't have any evidence to actually support that particular claim. Like, there's nothing to suggest that God actually created these mechanisms. But even here in your own logic, you would say that God created evolution in order. So I'm guessing that you believe in evolution. You're one of those Muslims that think that evolution actually happened, but maybe just God Phil golded it off in a certain way that would produce humans. Because I mean, the logic that you presented here is like, oh, these are two different things. God designs the mechanisms. This is just a mechanism. I get that. But you see, the thing is that when you understand evolution, that means that you don't need God to explain the things that evolution explains. So you can't make the logical connection between evolution and God, or biological mechanisms and God, or any kind of mechanism and God. Like like if we have a natural mechanism or natural process, then it doesn't make sense to say, oh, well, God did that. Okay, well, what's your evidence that says that? I got a book that says it.
So if evolution was true...
Oh, okay, so you don't believe evolution to be true, but God would be the one to design it if it was true. Is that where you're going?
There'd be no contradiction. One's a mechanism, and one designs and creates mechanism.
Way to be ambiguous as fuck there, Rahib. Holy shit, what the fuck?
Who can fail to be amazed at the
Homing instinct of a pigeon.
The homing instinct of a pigeon.
Migratory instinct of the bee-winged swan. The echolocator system of the bat. The blood pressure control system in the brain of a giraffe. The muscles in the neck of a woodpecker.
to name but a few.
Okay, so all of these particular animals have these particular properties, therefore God had to make them make those animals have those properties, even though we can look back in evolution and we can reason our way to show how these things actually happened.
Our living world is replete of such mechanisms of mind-bending complexity which point towards only one creator.
How? If you consider evolution, how evolution works, if you consider the explanations that we have, then it doesn't point to a creator. It just shows, oh, hey, look, fucking evolution works. The evolution's real. We have these things that show how it's real. This is how the bat was able to fucking scream and be able to see shit around it. You would think my son could echolocate with the way he screams, but nope, he still runs into shit all the time.
Allah. How can we still deny?
I can deny Allah easily. There's no evidence to suggest that Allah is a real thing, or that Allah is any better than the Christian God. And also Allah, had his prophet fucking 9-year-old. So honestly, that makes him a little shittier than the God of the New Testament, Jesus. I don't know, not worse than the God of the Old Testament, because the God of the Old Testament definitely had, guys fucking little girls then. Subscribe now! Watch me go around and make all these Allah claims. Allah this, Allah that. Thank you, heathens, for making it to the end. Could you go down below and leave me your thoughts about this guy's horrible arguments for God? While you're down there, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of dumb shit. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice, and I will see you heathens later.